When I had first conceived Doppelgang, I was on my second creative hiatus. Every day was the same. You'd wake up, get ready, go to work, come home from work, and you drink. And on the weekends, it would be just that without the work aspect. It got old really fast, and I felt myself wanting to make something. That's when I started doing the short films such as Drown and Candlelight 2. Doppelgang came to me after watching the trailer for the 2019 film Joker, and it was heavily inspired by the 2013 film The Double and the 2014 film Enemy, both of which I've been fans of for a really long time. With Doppelgang, the writing process was extremely difficult because I told myself after I get done writing the script, I don't want to be in this state anymore. I don't want to be mad at the world around me or unhappy. And I got to, I want to say it was like page 55, and then I found myself having a hard time finishing the script. And so, with that happening, I kind of gave up on Doppelgang for a bit. 2020 came around. That was in probably about July or August, maybe September 2019. 2020 came around, and COVID happened, and quarantine happened, and I got to thinking, and I said to myself, this is the best time to do this. It's either now or it won't be for a while, because, now I'm free, a lot more free than I was before in terms of scheduling and all that. And, I mean, that ruined the filming of I Give It a Year, and that forced me to release Windfall. And I was kind of stuck looking at my options, and I was like, alright, I can release Windfall and Doppelgang in the same year. My second and third films in the same year. And so I filmed Doppelgang. It was probably over the course of 3 to 4 months, but I had a hard time filming it. And I mean, there was nobody else on set. It was just me. So I would get burnt out and tired real fast. But I also had a really hard time finding the motivation to get to the point of the day where I was like, okay, I'm going to start filming this. And so that was really difficult too. That was definitely an obstacle and a hurdle for me to jump. But I jumped it, and I finally got done with it, and I'm putting it on my laptop, and I'm thinking that I have something good, and I get all the clips assorted, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, man, after all that I just filmed, I only got like 45, 50 minutes, and I start going through and cutting out the openings and the endings, because I'm the only one that filmed it, I was the only one there on set, so obviously each scene starts with me hitting play and walking away, and each scene ends with me walking from where I just walked off and hitting stop, and so after cutting all that out and cutting out some of the more boring scenes, going through the especially the phone conversation scenes and being like, okay, I wanted Dylan to do a voiceover here or whatever, but I'm actually, I'm gonna cut that because I don't think that it's necessary or whatever, I realized it was even shorter than that. It was, like 45 minutes. So I'm finding these short films online, like these animated ones, segments, and I'm putting them together. And I mean, obviously they're only being used if they're excelling the story forward. But I got something there figured out and edited, and it was probably about 55 minutes. And I do this thing where after I get done editing a film, the first draft, I'll sit down and I'll watch it, make sure there's no mistakes, all that. And I start watching this one, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is horrible. This is absolutely awful. And so I'm talking to some of my peers about it, and they're all trying to tell me, oh man, you're probably just being too self-critical. Well, it won't leave, you know what I mean? Like, I just keep thinking this is horrible. So I decided to release the short film instead. Chapters Season 2, Episode 9 was supposed to be this full-length film. It was going to fit with Chapters, and it was going to tie Chapters and 114, both web series of ours, kind of together, and if not together, make it known that these things are operatable in the future, especially 114, because we kind of just gave up on that one. The audience wasn't really ready for how odd that was. And it definitely took me a while after that short film to get to thinking about it. I want to say it was probably like February or March of this year. Probably February of this year. I got to thinking about it, and I was like, man, if I had a time machine and I went back in time and I found myself at the age of, 8 or 12 or whatever, and I was like, hey, you got a full-length film edited, but you're not releasing it, I would probably spaz. I would probably be like, "What the hell? What are you doing? Like, what's the holdup?" So after that, and a few more talks with more peers and the same peers as before, and people keep saying that to me. You're being overly self-critical. You just need to stop, and you take a break from it, go back to it. And so after that, I went back to it, and I started adding more, of the scenes and all that together. I had the short film saved. I had deleted the original full-length film that I made, and then edited the short film. So I had the short film saved, and I went to that, and I started rearranging everything, putting all the scenes back to where they belonged. And honestly, the time that I took from editing it the first time to editing it the second time, it made me realize, like, this is even less important than you thought it was, and all that. And so I don't know. I think it was a good learning lesson, because it was telling me that sometimes taking a break from a project and going back to it isn't so much a bad thing, even though it might look bad from the outside. It's really not something that you should worry about too much. And I mean, I don't think it's coincidental at all that this film is very reflective in its nature, and that the production behind it, especially the post-production, involved me being reflective with myself and honest with myself. Um, all in all, it was a great experience and a great way to further my art form and my craft, and tell myself, some things just aren't going to fit perfect on the surface, but if you keep working at it, it might work out a little bit more. And with that said, I definitely have a large amount of thanks to give to certain people, peers, and all that, but especially, I had seen Donnie Darko and the Butterfly Effect before, but I hadn't watched those films in quite a while, and so I watched those films again shortly before I started editing this, and maybe even like towards the very beginning of me editing this, and those films made me realize, like, if we didn't have people that were willing to take a chance and put oddities out there, even if the critics don't like them, someday it might relate to someone and correlate to someone, and it could take on a life of its own that you wouldn't even imagine. And so with that said, I'm not the biggest fan of Doppelgang. I wasn't overly fond of it, even the second time through editing it. It's just one of those things where it was like, I felt like I had to say it, and maybe I didn't have to say it, but I did it, and I said it, and so I'm giving you Doppelgang as my third feature film. The next one won't be so weird whenever that one comes around. Unfortunately, with that being said, the next one not being weird, I have made the decision to take a small break from focusing so much on my feature-length films for a little bit. It's not like it's going to be a long time, but I'm going to try to help Ron Gomes and Dylan Van Houten out with getting their projects off the ground and all of that. So hopefully next year I'll have a script somewhere, ideally done, and we can start figuring out filming, but I wouldn't be surprised if you guys didn't see another feature film from me for about another year or two, maybe even. So with that said, enjoy this. If you don't, I don't blame you. But this is me trying to open up to you and say, I appreciate you guys, and I just wanted to give you guys something that maybe one day you'll relate to, maybe you never will, but it's something that I put a lot of work into and a lot of energy into, and it's, I just couldn't get the positive terminal and the negative terminal to click, on the battery. But I really did try. So, Doppelgang is something that I hope carries on in some way, shape, or form, but if it doesn't, I understand, and that's all that being an artist really is, that's the art of art. Sometimes you're going to put out something that you like and it gets hated on. Sometimes you're going to put something out that you hate and it's going to get loved on. And that's just how it goes, And so, Doppelgang will be out in the next hour. I don't know exactly when I'm going to schedule this as I'm recording this, but I'll probably put it out an hour before the film itself. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be sitting there in the live premiere. I'll be answering questions on that video until probably about 10 or so next morning, tomorrow morning. This is a really weird ending because of the fact that I didn't film this the day of, you know, but still everything I'm saying applies. So